Hello everyone, I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Mom.
And this is Millennial Mom. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing Family or Fiancé, Season 1, Episode 17, Indecisive Proposal. And with this being a season finale, I hope it goes out with a bang.
So let's get into the video.
So on this episode, we have Sherry and Micah. Sherry and Micah both met at work, and within 5 months, they got engaged. So the biggest issue and concern is to why they're going on the show. It's because Micah's family feels like she's bougie, and then Sherry's family feels like he's being a moocher because all he does is rap and produce and has a part-time IT job.
Right. So on the car ride, we see Sherry's family. It's her brother Robert, her sister Imani, and her best friend Deepka. And they feel like Sherry and Micah are rushing into this marriage. Robert's brother feels that Micah is weak, which I don't understand why he said that. But as a weak man, because, well, yes, I do. Because he said he doesn't provide. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're weak because you don't provide. Sherry supports Micah in his rap career. But her sister Imani also feels that Micah is a moocher and they've rushed, they moved too fast. Excuse me, after 5 months. And then next we see Micah's family arrive. It's his cousin Emmett, his mom Cassandra, not you, and his best friend Anthony. And his mom says she may not be able to hear Sherry's family saying mean things about her son. She's just not here for that. Negative things. Micah thinks his family thinks Sherry is high maintenance. I don't know where they got that from because I didn't get high maintenance from her.
I didn't either, or her family, throughout the whole episode. So we can see that it's very important that Micah and Sherry both get their blessings from their family. So what they do is Tracy gives them the task of...
the tasks are Micah's assigned to show Sherry's family his 5-year vision plan.
Right. And then Sherry did...
Truth Pong,
which I thought was really cool and inventive, and I'm going to steal it.
Sherry's family is the first family to arrive. Everyone hugs and is cordial and greeting each other. And Sherry's sister Imani gives Micah like a half-hearted hug. He felt that half-hearted vibe. He felt awkward with that. But in one of the scene in the confessional, Robert says the first time he found out that Sherry was engaged is when he called Sherry. And that's how he learned she was engaged. He called his sister. And she's like, well... He said to her, so you're engaged. Are you pregnant? She was like, no.
I'm not going to lie. That would have been the first thing I would have asked my brother, too. If he got married that quick, but, you know.
Yeah. Her family thinks he's mooching. I mean, that's just the main theme of this episode. Michael feels things are awkward when they arrive. It kind of was, because when he got the awkward hug and they were like saying hello to Sherry, you know, he kind of like felt like pushed aside. Then Michael's family arrives. His cousin Ernest, when he found out Michael was getting engaged, in his confessional, he says he didn't even realize he had a girlfriend.
See, I don't know if I'm getting the vibe of I don't like his cousin Ernest, or maybe I need to take his feelings into consideration. What do you think?
Well, what would the reason be not to like him? Because he's giving the same energy that her brother Robert's giving. They both feel like, who's he, who's she, and why are you moving so fast?
I don't know. I guess maybe I don't like them both then.
So his cousin says that he found out about Sherry really via her social media and how she comes across bougie, and you know, his mom thinks she's bougie too. I mean, the whole family thinks she's bougie. And I just don't understand why they get that vibe. Because what is it that she's doing that's bougie? Because...
you know what I think it is?
What?
I think because they said it. It's because she feels like Micah doesn't make enough money.
Okay, but...
And he doesn't provide or do a lot.
Oh, so you think they feel she's bougie because she may be paying all the bills?
Well, I don't think... Micah also said later on in the episode that, Sherry said that Micah doesn't tell his family everything, that she is
that's
the support
right.
provider.
That's true.
So I think they only think that she's bougie because he has a part-time job, but they're like, he has a degree and all this other stuff. You know, he's just focused on his career. And then when his career takes off, then she's going to be taken care of, and then she won't have a problem with it.
Okay. Well, if that's bougie, that's bougie. That's not what I consider bougie, but okay.
So all the family members sit down to finally talk about what the issues and concerns are about Micah and Sherry being engaged.
Yeah, so her best friend Deepka starts off and says that they're moving too quickly. And she even asks Sherry, was her biological clock ticking? Is that why she's rushing into their marriage? Well, I thought that was kind of like a little shade, because why would you think that's your biological clock ticking?
She just wanted to know the reason why.
I guess. Her brother Robert says he's concerned that Micah is not making enough money and he lives paycheck to paycheck and doesn't feel that he could support his sister. And her sister Imani feels that the courtship is short and doesn't know each other enough and doesn't understand why they're rushing. So Micah's family starts off with Ernest's cousin, the one that you don't care for right now for some reason, says he's never met Sherry and only on social media. She seems like she's bougie from her post and wants to make sure this is what he wants and she wants, and wants to make sure that she is involved in Micah's dreams that he wants to pursue his music career. His mom says that she wants him not to lose his voice and says that he needs to that he can shut things down, and, leave out the haters and leave out anything, other voices coming in, because she thinks that's a factor that he's listening to outside noise that's influencing their relationship. And his cousin Anthony says that he also feels like they're rushing, and he feels that circumstances were bad, and the reason why he says that is because Micah proposed to Sherry because Sherry hadn't returned his texts or calls for 2 months. And it turns out the reason why was because of an email.
He was sending flirtatious emails to another female.
Well, they didn't say
they
to
were
who.
really specific.
They were specific, but we'll get into
to
that.
another person.
Right. That'll come up in the discussions once we get to it. And so Anthony also says that, for someone who doesn't return calls after 2 months and things like that, he feels that maybe Micah proposed to save his relationship. And that's a concern. And I agree. I think, if someone doesn't talk to you for 2 months, it's either because they don't want to be bothered anymore, or I don't know what the case is, but that's no reason to be like, maybe I should go propose. So before the task began, you see Anthony and Deepka outside playing pool. And Deepka says to Anthony, how do you feel about what was said? And Anthony explained to her, it turns out that Sherry dances for a living. But if that's your best friend, wouldn't you know that she dances for a living?
She does. She knows that she dances for a living. What she was surprised about was that Sherry didn't tell her about the whole email gate extravaganza. And so I feel like, having some friends and some that I would consider to be close, I don't know if I would be like hurt or offended or anything by that, even if we do talk every day, because really at the end of the day, that's your relationship and you're going to move how you want to move.
That's true. But if you're truly best friend with someone, like truly best friends, you have that type of connection, and they tell you everything, at least you think you do. They do. And then when you learn something from someone else's family, which on this show is the opposite of what's actually happening, she felt the type of way she felt hurt, because she even said, Sherry tells me everything, and she was really surprised at that.
Would you feel hurt?
I wouldn't feel hurt. Well, yeah, maybe so. Yeah. Because if I know most everything about you and you know most everything about me for a very long time, and this is something that you kept from me for whatever reason, I would feel hurt. It wouldn't necessarily change my life, but I would feel hurt about that, yes.
So now we go to a task with Micah, and Michael's with Sherry's family, and Micah's basically telling them about his 5-year plan.
Right. So they want to know, Sherry's family, what exactly his 5-year plan entails. And Imani's question to Micah is, she says her concern is Micah says he wants to expand his family. And how soon does he want to expand his family?
They're really stuck on her being pregnant.
They are. I noticed that.
They swore that was the reason why.
Can you imagine if she was? What?
It would make for a good episode.
They wouldn't know what to do. They just really didn't want her to be with him like that anyways. So Robert asked if, again, is she pregnant? Because he just said that, he wanted to expand his family in the near future. He was like, no. They were like...
And his sister was like, praise Jesus.
I was like...
that was rude.
I thought so, too. That was rude to the man's face. But at least it was in his face, so he knew it wasn't a secret.
It would have been rude behind his back or in his face.
So Imani asked Micah if he proposed out of love, and Micah said that he proposed out of love.
Mm-hmm. But then her brother was like, so let's talk about the emails.
The elusive emails.
They weren't really specific on it, since it was her first time hearing about it.
Micah says in emails what he was doing on his tablet was harmless flirting.
And her sister was like, there's no such thing as harmless flirting. Flirting is flirting.
I agree with that.
It's true.
I agree with that. And so Micah says, well, they'd moved on from that and Sherry has forgiven him. Micah says that Imani has also apologized about it. So I wonder why Sherry apologized. I wonder why Sherry would apologize to Micah if he was the one flirting.
Because she didn't talk to him for 2 months.
Oh, okay. That's true. Somehow I missed that part. So with Sherry's task with the family, the true pong, which is same as beer pong. Did they have beer in those cups or water? I didn't see anybody drink anything.
How could they have beer in the cups if they had the notes in the cups? That was the whole reason.
Never mind. So Sherry reads the first question. If Micah didn't ask you so soon, would you be ready to get married? She said no, she wouldn't, but it would be about 2 to 3 years. At least she was being honest. Do you feel like Micah focused on music too much? Sherry says she supports Micah and his dreams, but she also feels like she supports him to the point where, it's inhibiting them paying the bills, and that she takes over everything as far as cable and everything else that comes along with the household, because maybe he's spending too much time in music because he doesn't have a full-time job. He's only working part-time right now.
Right, and that brings me back to Sherry's family when they asked, like, how much are you paying for stuff? And he was like, oh, just the cable, the lights.
Yeah. It's something. If you're working, and to me, it doesn't matter necessarily where you work. He said part-time. But if you're contributing to the household, even if it's part-time, you're still contributing to the household. It's still not as much of a burden to the person who's bringing in everything at the time.
Right, but then we go back to Michael's family when they asked a similar question to that about Michael's finances and his career of producing and rapping and whatever else it may entail. The cousin Ernest?
No, the mom actually. The mom says...
someone reiterated the word bougie again.
Well, they all say bougie, his family, as the show progresses, because they just think she's bougie from top to bottom, regardless if she's paying most of the bills or not. They just feel like her aura is bougie in general. But about the money situation, his mom says if they're having money problems now, don't they think that they should put off the marriage for later? And Sherry actually cries about that. She cries and says she doesn't want to get into that right now, and that she feels that they can work it out. But if you're crying about it right now, you can't even answer a simple question. And to me, if you're crying about it, and with the question that was asked previously, like we mentioned, she's starting to get that revelation of the things that may not be necessarily going the way that she thinks they're going when someone else presents the information to you.
So then we get back to Sherry's family, and Sherry's family brings up the prenup to Micah. And Micah was definitely taken aback by that.
For sure. And Robert looked at it, he was like, so what's this? And Robert's like, well, most divorces, 67% of divorces anyway, divorce over finances. Because he's trying to protect his sister. And like you said, it still goes back to that part-time job that he has. So Michael looks at it and he says, so if I sign this, does that mean that, I'm going to stay with her or, provide for her and everything? And they're pretty much saying like, yeah, they want to know if he's going to do it. So they say, do you have a pen? And his sister's like, what kind of pen you need? A black pen? A blue pen?
All official documents should always be in black pen.
Correct.
But I felt like they were really, 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 really foul for this. Because at the end of the day, that might be your sister, your best friend, but that's still her relationship. So you kind of have to let her, you do have to let her make that, especially that very important decision that people really take to heart and get really emotional about it. They should let her do that on her own. But we find out some things later on in the episode.
Right, but Michael does end up signing the prenup, and I was surprised. I didn't think he was gonna sign the prenup. I thought he was going to like get taken inside and kind of like make a scene, but he signed it right outside. And her sister and brother took it. Was like, okay. Kind of like, okay, cool.
So we finally make it to dinner, and I feel like this is the first time out of like all the family or fiancés that I've seen that we don't see people actually make the dinner. It's just ready to go on the table.
Yeah.
But you know, after Micah prays that, you know, they have a good dinner and a good talk, the cousin asks, so has there been any new thoughts or revelation?
And Amani, her sister, chimes in and asked Micah to his face this time, did you propose because you thought pretty much you were going to lose Sherry? Sherry said it did happen that way pretty much. And Micah was in the doghouse, but she says that he proposed to her. So that's how she knew it was serious. I'm like, really? He proposed to you because he was in the doghouse, so you know it was serious? So one of his cousins piped up, I think it was Ernest, was like, well, how come you didn't bring flowers or roses? Why'd you have to propose? We go on to see Deepka, and she wants to know why Sherry didn't say anything before about the emails. And Sherry says that she had forgiven him and wanted his family to give Micah a chance because, you know, they know that they don't really like him or care for Micah. And Deepka says she feels like Micah signing the prenup helped. And at that time, Micah's family was like, what? Yeah, they kind of like stopped eating. So Micah's mom was like, prenup? And asked, you gonna do that, Micah? And Micah said, I already did it.
And they're like, what?
Right.
Well, in my head, that's what they said.
Right. His mom says, it's not like both of you are rich. I had to laugh at that. I'm sorry. Because
I don't think it's about being rich. It's about protecting your assets.
Right. But it's the way his mom says, like, it's not like both of you are rich.
And are rich.
Right. You know, so.
Like, she was disgusted.
Right. Ernest says, Micah has a degree and a job and all of that, so how come that's not good enough? And I have to agree with that. You know, if you're pursuing your dreams, but you also have a part-time job and you're contributing something, it's not like, again, she is contributing everything. You know, it would be different if, you know, he had his job and he was sitting on his money. He's not doing that. So that's where I can relate to Ernest on that one. His family thinks the risk is her taking on the responsibilities of masking Michael's dreams.
My favorite part of the scene, which probably shouldn't be your favorite part, but it's kind of something I thought was interesting, was when Micah asked Sherry if she even knew anything about them bringing up the prenup to him. And what she say? I forgot what she said, but the look on her face didn't match with what she said.
No, it didn't. She said, did she know? At first she said no, but then she said that her brother and sister kind of like ran it past her before, so she knew it was coming. So really, the answer was yes.
Right. So she lied.
So, you know, Sherry also thinks her family was just like looking out for her. And, you know, Michael is not falling for that.
Micah. We keep saying Michael.
Sorry, okay. Michael. It's Micah. Micah wasn't falling for that.
Yeah, Michael said basically like, how come you didn't bring this up to me yourself if you had this issue? Which is what I said earlier, because she should have brought it because that's her relationship. Yeah, your family can have some input if you want them to have input, but them bringing Micah the prenup papers, I feel like that's really foul.
Right. Micah feels betrayed by Sherry and her family with a prenup, and Sherry says her brother brought it up and she went along with it. Micah's disappointed at this revelation. Micah also asked Sherry, did she feel like he would manipulate her out of signing it if he knew? And Sherry says, no, it's a trust thing.
I don't believe her.
I don't believe it either, because that's a double talk. If you knew that your brother and sister ran it past you, it can't be no, it's a trust thing. Who's a trust thing? With your family? Is it a trust thing with Micah? That's where the conflict arrives. Micah's mom says Sherry was rushing, so Sherry says she disagreed with all that, and Sherry started crying, and she got up from the table and was upset with that. And I'm like, to me, that's kind of like not facing your fears. It's kind of like you got caught in a situation because you knew what was going on before you got there.
You got caught in a lie, so you try to retreat with tears.
Right. You know, they were half tears, I guess. So her friend Deepka came out there, started talking to her, and was like, you know, did you know? Why'd you have to do that? How come we didn't know about the emails, things like that?
Right. Basically, like, they're just getting everything on the table because that's why they came. to the show, to put everything on the table, to finally actually be truthful.
Micah does get up and go outside to see, what's wrong. And, Sherry says, your mom's just very opinionated. He was like, yeah, my mom is, but we'll work through it.
Yeah, she really wants his mom to like her. So the next day, the couple meets up with Tracy. And Tracy basically checks in, says, how was the dinner? And Sherry was like, it was a rough night.
Yeah.
And why was it a rough night? Because all the truth got exposed. But Micah lets Tracy know that he was presented with a prenup. And Tracy was like to Sherry, well, did you know about this? And of course, Sherry hesitated. And she was like, well, kind of knew. And Tracy was like, it kind of looked like he was about to say no.
Yeah, she checked her on that. I was like, you go ahead, Tracy, because, I would have thought the same thing. She was like, well, that's a no. Tracy told Sherry she could have handled it with her family outside of Micah. Like, she could have explained to her family that she wanted to present the prenup, if that's what she wanted to do, to Michael herself, not have them present it, because that's a blind side. Mm-hmm. Which is wrong, because that made Micah feel like, again, he was in an awkward position and, kind of made him unsure of, he wasn't sure if that's what Sherry wanted to do or if that's what just Sherry's family wanted to do.
Right.
Then the email comes up and Micah explained to Tracy how he was flirting with another person. Again, they don't specify who, what, when, and where the person was, but the email was left out on his tablet. Now, when are people going to learn to close your browsers? If you're going to do something, close your browsers, click off. It was wrong, but that's how she found it.
But my thing is, why are you creeping via email? My experience with email from people's that I know situations in my own potential situation, but didn't happen, is whenever you're doing something shady on email, flirting with somebody, doing anything, you already know it's not going to work out. It just don't work. Who does that? Right. Someone who's trying to be deceitful.
Right. So, Tracy tries to explain to Sherry that, because you didn't talk to him after this email for 2 months, it's as if...
It was abusive.
Yeah, it was abusive. I don't know if I agree with the word abusive. Because if your feelings are hurt or you just choose not to speak to someone for 2 months and then later on maybe rekindle, not necessarily a relationship, but a friendship, I don't know if that's abusive.
Well, it could be emotionally triggering because it's no telling if after she saw the email, if she was just like, I'm going to leave the house and then she didn't talk to him for 2 months, or if she's like, we're going to break up. They didn't really specify on that, so what I'm guessing is she just stopped talking to him, just ghosted him.
Yeah.
But y'all work at the same place.
Right. So Sherry feels like there's a lot of things that Micah should take into consideration, but on both parts, time is something that they really need to think about in their relationship, and if they are moving too fast. So at this point, Sherry is questioning the things that have happened in the last 2 months with engagement and now being at the house, of what is actually happening in the flow of their relationship.
Since Tracy wants Micah to connect with Sherry's brother and sister more, she set up a meeting where he's going to meet up with Grammy-nominated Mark Jackson, and they go there. He plays him 2 of his songs, and everyone was pretty much feeling the songs.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It reminded me of a 90s West Coast vibe. I could be wrong because I listen to a lot of 90s West Coast, but that's what it sounded like to me. It didn't sound like anything outrageous. Now, in one of our videos, if you watch, you said you heard from the Nigerian Soldier Boy Half the Bop. That was a bop. It was an all the way bop to me, both of the beats.
I mean, I don't know, but the one thing that they were was oh, you look so different from what you're rapping on your song.
What it sounds like, that's true, because, sorry, Micah, but I think he was trying to get at, maybe you look like you work in IT, so maybe IT, what do you call those people that work at, the big box store?
Geek Squad.
The Geek Squad, and then your rap and your beats sound like West Coast rap and that genre. Mm-hmm.
And one of the other problems that they had with Micah is they feel like he might be a little bit too old to be pursuing a rap career. Mm-hmm. But I feel like maybe he doesn't have to be the rapper per se, but maybe he can do beats or write for people since they did like his music. And even Mark Jackson liked his music too. So maybe that's a route he maybe want to pursue, or maybe he should pursue, because it wasn't bad.
Well, the first thing he said that Micah said that he wanted to be a music producer. Then the secondary was a rap person. He didn't say rapper, he just said rap. So maybe it means produce for both just music and rap music producer. But Mark did tell him that, it was pretty good. Maybe you should come back and do a showcase. I thought that was cool.
But then at the house, we see Sherry and her best friend, Deepka, having a conversation. Mm-hmm. And through this conversation, we found out that Sherry feels like she needs to call off the engagement.
Right, because Deepka kind of questioned her about the email situation because she didn't know. She wanted to get more in depth on that. And, Deepka pretty much was saying, like, did you really want him to propose to you after you didn't hear from him from 2 months? Like, it seemed like, it was kind of like, I don't want to say a punishment, but it seemed like, to get him back in your good graces, you accepted his proposal. Mm-hmm. And Sherry kind of agreed to that. She was like, she got to thinking, she was like, you know what? Maybe we should take some time out. Maybe we did rush. Maybe I, did make him feel like because he was in doghouse for me to get me back, he had to propose, and I said yes, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do.
So we're finally at the blessing ceremony. Micah says that he loves Sherry with all his heart.
Oh.
And then Sherry says she loves Micah with all her heart too.
And Micah's family and everyone there.
But then we get the bombshell. She calls off the engagement.
Yeah.
And everyone is kind of like shocked and taken back because I guess they wanted to give their opinion about the blessing.
I was waiting on those opinions too. I really wanted to hear those opinions because I don't think they would have changed.
But the overall satisfaction rate was 100% because none of them wanted them to be engaged. Mm-hmm. So they were pretty satisfied with the outcome.
The only person that wasn't satisfied though was Micah.
Yeah, he took it the hardest.
Well, of course he did. Because he was really into it and into Sherry. And he really thought coming to the house, have the families come together, get out all the things they need to get out, say what they had to say off their chests, that things would be fine. Mm-hmm. So, at the end of the episode, we see that Sherry and Micah are still together and are in couples counseling together. Michael is still pursuing his music, but now has a full-time job and pursuing a degree. Recently, Michael and Sherry decided to get married on their original wedding date of July 26th of 2020, but only Micah's family knows at this time.
And that was my problem. Like, you did all this, made all the dramatics, and your own family and best friend let you know how hurt they were by you not telling them about the email. Even made them do your dirty work and give him the prenup and all, so y'all can still get married on the same day. Someone tell me what happened. I need to know. Because I'm just like, what was this episode for?
Please leave it down in the comments.
So that was the end of season 1, the finale. Hopefully it was actually the end of season 1 and not go to season 1, episode 18. So the program guy could get the program because it still says season 2. But in all, I want to thank you guys for watching our videos. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate the comments.
And as always, live simply, be grateful.